Preferably your lip and your tongue placement is the most important. Your lip and tongue placement on this call is lower lip across there, and let's say this is my tongue, and this is where it's going in to my mouth, just like this. Upper lip and teeth are right on here, crossed, and my tongue is going to go into it like that. But as you can see right there, I'm going to go right to the very edge of this diaphragm, right where I cut it, right with the tip of my tongue, right there. Now keep in mind, your tongue has to go this way on the latex. Don't let your tongue go this way or curl. You don't want it to curl like that. Just nice and round, just like that. And so when you lay it on there, your lower lip will meet your tongue right there at that edge. Just like this. And meet perfectly there. And you notice when I did a nice soft cow call there that it didn't take any pressure as far as me turning red to make it go. It's a very relaxed call. So when you learn to blow it, start off with very soft air pressure and very soft tongue pressure, and just do it relaxed. Relax yourself. Get into the mood where you're sitting in front of the chair or in front of the TV in your old easy chair, and you're just relaxing back and just enjoying playing with the call a little bit. Now to do those calls, that cow call starts by about 1/8 of an inch of inward pressure with the tongue, maybe as much as 1/4, but normally not, depending on the individual and depending on the latex. Push your tongue in, we're going to say 1/4 of an inch. Start with your back pressure in your cheeks, like you're going to blow a balloon up for the first time. So it's that type of expansion in your cheeks. So you're going to build back pressure behind your tongue, where your tongue's applying pressure to the diaphragm, until you hear it squeal. And then it's going to be a ew. And how I get that is I slowly take my tongue off it, but my tongue, when it comes off it, is not so much this way as it is just pulling it up the diaphragm as I back away on my air pressure. So my air pressure is built up like this. And so there I'm pulling my tongue into my mouth, up the diaphragm as I let it fade away, and I back off on my air pressure at the same time. And you can see I'm not really straining to do these sounds, so they're very relaxed. Always keep that in mind. Whatever you do on the call, be relaxed when you do it. And you can do all kinds of variations of calls just by changing your tongue and air pressure. And it's more air pressure than it is tongue pressure. Once I get my tongue placed, I usually change my tones on my calls by the amount of back pressure I am applying through the call and then releasing off the call. Now your variation of cow calls is your cow, your calf, same starting spot on all of them. I'm just going to shorten them and make a quicker burst of air to do the calf call. So now we'll do a cow talking to a calf, back and forth. Now that's just air pressure. Increasing and decreasing air pressure as I'm blowing it through the tube. Same tongue pressure, just controlling that with that air pressure. Now, all your cow calls could be made by using that same technique. Your grunt, your bark, your cow call all comes from the same starting spot, which is that high note, about 1/4 of an inch in. The tip of your tongue on the very edge of that diaphragm. Just like this. Your cow call, your bark, and your grunt. All from the same starting spot. Okay? Always remember that. Your high note is achieved to produce your cow call, your high note is achieved to produce your bark, and your high note is achieved to produce your grunt. Okay, to get a good bark, what you're going to do is you're going to produce a burst of air as you pop your tongue into the diaphragm. And it's a ooh with your tongue. Your tongue's going to go arr, arr, into the call. And depending on how far you bring the air from is depending on how deep that sound is. Now your cow calls can be done in many different ways, as you heard me do them. You have your estrus calls, your calf calls, your yearlings, and your cows. Your adults, in other words. So there's variations of calls that can go on that way. We're going to do a variations of cow calls. So all those different cow calls is just a controlling of air and tongue pressure. Now, going back to the bark, there's two types of barks. There's a warning bark, and there's a bark that means come here, or I want to see you. And I call that the I want to see you bark and the warning bark. High pitch is a warning bark, very sharp, very quick. And it's just a quick pop of air with your tongue popping up to that high note octave. And it's off and on. Throwing a little voice in with it. Okay? The voice is not a it's a and a ooh. Okay? Those are the two voice sounds you're going to use with this call. A hum and a ooh or U sound from your voice. The U sound is used for your grunts and your barks. Your hum is used for your growl into your bugle. Now, to do a rhythm of grunts, or excuse me, let me go back and do that come here bark. Your come here bark is deep and heavy. Sounds like it coming right out of the diaphragm. And it really echoes in the woods. I use that bark a lot to get bulls that are producing it to me because they want to see me, they want that visual, and I will do that back to them so they think that I want to see them as well, and I'll usually follow it up with a couple cow calls. And that usually brings that bull on in a little closer, especially when they hang up out there at 50, 60 yards and you can't quite get the shot off at them and you need them to come in for another 20 yards or another 30 yards. When they start doing the bark back to them, just keep working them in with the cow calls. Very, very excellent way to call a bull in, especially if he's anxious like that. Now your grunts and how you produce your rhythm of grunts is based on learning to do one grunt at a time and perfecting it, okay? And I always teach in my classes that you got to learn one bark. Once you learn one bark and can do that without even thinking about it, like riding a bike, then and only then can you produce your rhythm of grunts. So your grunt is just a single high note popped off with a or a U sound. And then once you learn to do each one of them, then all it is bringing your tongue up and learning to move your tongue in a rhythm of off and on that diaphragm as you do each one of them. And when I do it, I'll put my hand in front of here, and this is what I teach the students. Put your hand in front of your tube and try to hit it with a burst of air. You're going to hit your hand right here with a burst of air out the end of this tube. And you can feel it hit when I pull off that bark, or that grunt. Okay? As soon as you learn to do one grunt at a time, then start to build your rhythm. And I like to start off with at least 3 grunts as my first rhythm. Okay? And keep in mind, as you get better with your grunts and your rhythms, you will find new tones that you will achieve as your grunts come in, and the hollowness that will be achieved as you do those rhythm of grunts. And sometimes bulls will do 4 and 5 grunts. Sometimes I've heard bulls do 12 grunts. It's depending on how well you want to learn to call and what type of a bull you want to be at that in particular time to call the individual bulls in that you're calling. So here's a good rhythm of grunts. I'll do about 6 or 8 of them just to give you a good example. usually a bull will start off with a flow of air and going into not an aggressive, but a fast speed of rhythm, and then slow down as he goes to the last couple of them. Okay, now to get this rhythm and get it working for you, you want to learn to breathe in and out of this tube. So you're going to take an air gulp in and breathe out every single time you do a grunt. It's not a full lung of air and try to do as many grunts as you can with that full lung of air. No, I can do 1,000 grunts if I want to, because I breathe each time I do a grunt. So I will never run out of air, and I will never lose my rhythm because of air loss. So it's just one breath at a time, one grunt at a time.